FocusHipHop.com, biznitch.
What is up, YouTube? My name would be OG Nick Marsh. This is Focus Hip Hop, and today I am here with the one and only producer, rapper, and head of We Are the Karma Kids, Lieutenant Headtrip. First of all, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you doing?
Good, man. It's my pleasure. Thanks for asking me to hang out.
Yeah,
I'm
man.
having a good day. I just got out the hot tub. I'm
Hell
uh
yeah.
I'm living it up today. I'm on a little vacation. I can't stop. It's like the end of summer is always just like party, birthday party,
hmm
weddings. So I'm in the wave right now.
Yeah, and obviously we just got off the release of the new album with Blood Money Perez Emblems.
hmm
I'm sure that the release of this album has also kind of made things a bit more chaotic, or how has the release been in general so far?
Nowadays, since I do a pre-order on Bandcamp a couple weeks
hmm
before the album comes out, and I have a couple singles that like leak on DSPs months before that. It's
uh
no longer a chaotic thing. I used to put out surprise, here's the album with a music video, and you can get it anywhere. And then
Right.
I'd throw a release show and all the homies would be there the day that I press publish on Bandcamp, and we'd all be like, "Yeah!" And everybody buys a T-shirt, and I give away half the CDs because all my friends helped me make the album. But
hmm
I'm not in my 20s and living in an apartment where Gruff Lion and or Googie is crashing on the couch at every moment. Like it's just like a
Yeah.
different era.
hmm
And so I've kind of spread out the release. So the day that it went live on Bandcamp, I mean, the pre-orders were already up. So all I
Yeah.
had to do was like remind people and be like, now you can listen to the whole thing.
Okay.
Um, and I mean, I got out my press emails a couple like a month or 3 weeks before the album dropped. So like,
hmm
I didn't have as much work to do, and I was able to just kind of be like, I was with my buddies and we all lined up some shots and we're like, "Woo, midnight, publish," and then got back to doing what we were doing. It's gotten some good reception so far, man. I think that I've gotten asked on more interviews for this one than Tap on the Glass already, and that was
Damn.
probably the most attention that I've gotten in my modern post-pandemic era, even before that. So it's been good. And I'm just psyched
Oh,
people get to hear these songs. They sound so much different to me once everybody can hear them.
uh-huh. So I got to Dreamery. That one was produced by C Money Burns, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Loved that album. Um,
It's great. Total
was so
deviation from what I'd done at that point. Like that was new for me. Funky beats, hazy stuff, and just rapping about what I did every day because I worked 60 hours a week on that island. So like all I had to rap about was like the beach and what happened today at work and a guy that
yeah.
I knew. And that's just a different way of writing. But I did it. I mean, I managed to make an album on that island, which is incredible based on like the amount of work that you got to put in to stay out there.
So that was my first album from you, and I guess my impression at the time was, wow, this guy seems like he's been making music for a long time because this
hmm
is not the work of an amateur, you know?
Facts. Thank you.
Um,
Yes.
so just for me to get a better understanding, uh, how long into your career were you when you made that album? Or
I wrote that album in
yeah.
2019 and put it out in 2020. I mean, if we're being real, I've been writing raps since fifth grade. Like my first rap group was in fifth grade.
Mm,
And I didn't record any of that stuff, but in sixth grade, I did. I had some like joke raps with my buddies, and I learned how to use Sonic Foundry Acid and iMovie. And so we were making music and music videos, and it was more fun. Like I think the first thing I ever recorded was a cover of Intergalactic by the Beastie Boys.
Hmm.
And then I picked up a bass guitar, I picked up a guitar, I tried to be in bands, and that didn't really work out because I was just too big of a personality and just wasn't good enough at bass to be like the or singing to be the lead guy, which is what I wanted to be. And
Hmm.
so then Tony Hawk Pro Skater, like with MF Doom and Aesop Rock, I was like, what's this weird stuff? So I would say when I was 16 is when I really started churning out the music that like me for making. I
Okay.
put out a demo, like an EP in high school, and then I recorded a full length in high school, which I brought to Hofstra to New York with me when I went
Hmm.
to college at that damned place.
Yeah.
And I handed it to Samurai Banana, and he was like, "This is dope. Let's work together." And so my first collaborative album after high school was 2007, 2008, and I have been churning out music nonstop since then. So
Wow.
that's like, I mean, I'm coming up on what 15 years is that? If we want to say 2008 is my starting point. I'm not great
Hmm.
at math, but it sounds about right.
Hmm. Yeah, 15 years sounds, yeah. I'm also not good
Um,
at math, but
yeah,
sounds right. So you
yeah,
mentioned
man.
Hofstra. So I'm guessing people who are watching this they probably either know me or know you. Maybe some people know both of us. Maybe some people don't know either of us. Uh, for people who are watching, Lieutenant Headtrip and I actually went to the same college. Uh, I'm still in college right now, not the same college that we both attended, and we obviously weren't in college at the same time, but we did both go to Hofstra University. And how did you find out that I was at Hofstra? Because I remember you messaged me and you were like, wait a minute, that place
Yeah, I
seems
think
familiar.
you said something about Estabrook, I think, the
Oh
dorm
yeah,
or one of the towers, and I was like,
yeah,
I never hear those words outside of Hofstra University. I was like, "Oh, you
yeah,
go to school there?" And you're like, "Yeah." And I think that that's when we really connected. We are like, "Oh,
yeah.
weird." And from there, we've been in each other's DMs for years now. I mean, and we
Uh-huh.
finally got to meet when I was on tour this
Yeah, that was a
spring.
lot
That
of
was
fun.
great.
That was an amazing show, by the way.
You saw me as the only rapper at a beat night, and
Yeah,
they they're great. They were wonderful, but they like wouldn't acknowledge that I was part of the tour. I don't know if it's
yeah.
because I wasn't like the producer performing, but like
Uh-huh.
they just wouldn't. They kept on hitting up my dude Northern Draw, like, "Hey, so when you come to town, they wouldn't put my name on the flyer." We're like cracking up about this, and then we finally get there, and they don't introduce me. Like we talk, we're like on the human level, we're fine, but on stage, they're like our first ever touring act, Northern Draw, and at the very end of the night, they're like, "Thanks for Northern Draw, very first touring act," and everybody else. And oh, what's your name? And I'm like, Head Trip. They're like, wait, what is it? Head Trip. Hold on, one more time. Head Trip and Head Trip. Good night. Like is the last thing. But it was great. I mean, I love being in different spaces and morphing my presence to be appropriate at a beat maker's show where I'm not the star of the show, but like I hop in, give them a little spice, and get off the stage. I think I pulled it off. All those performers were awesome.
Yeah, no, yeah, that was a really great show. And for people listening, that's exactly how it happened. The person was like, "What's your name again?" And you're like, "Headship."
That's the only time that they ever said my name. They were so nice though.
Yeah,
Uh,
no, no. Shout out to those people.
yeah,
The
are they Beats
ETC.
Batch
So that was a Beats Batch like segment,
showcase?
I guess.
Hmm.
Yeah, showcase. They do a lot of like stuff. It's just like a space in general for like
Yeah,
artists to
the
showcase
ETC,
stuff. Yeah, shout out
the
to
etc.
ETC
Great little
Greensboro.
DIY spot. I
Yeah,
love the
it's
DIY
really cool.
spots.
I'm gonna start. I also saw Sequence there. That was my first time
Sick.
going there.
Yes.
I'm gonna try to. I joined their Discord. I'm gonna try to be more involved there. So
Hmm.
um
Sweet. Yeah.
yeah.
I got to
So
get on that Discord. That's where everybody's talking.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I brought up the thing about how you got into music.
Hmm.
I always have a kind of a curiosity about how rappers learned to rap the way they rap, I guess.
Hmm.
And uh, you one thing, Snoff the Maker was also at the show show you performed at that I was there.
Hmm.
And he commented on how unique your flow was. Um, I feel like maybe when you first started rapping, you weren't flowing the way you flow now. Is that a
Correct.
fair
Yeah.
assumption?
Yeah, for sure. I've learned a lot.
Uh-huh. So when did you first start like getting super intricate? Because like your flow is not like it doesn't seem easy. It seems like it takes a lot of practice and a lot of probably multiple takes or just to like the way you approach a beat. How does that come together?
Thank you for the question. That's a really good question. So I started on hard mode, you
Hmm.
know. I mean, I would say in 5th grade I didn't start at hard mode. But by the time I got to high school, the rappers that I really admired were very intricate, like Outkast. I listened to that Black Star album a million times. I listened to that
Hmm.
first Gorillaz record a lot. I listened to a
Mm.
lot of Def Jux. And I had my moment with Tupac, and he was still kind of on rotation. But the thing that I didn't love about Tupac is that his flow was similar throughout his discography, and I would
Mm.
get a little bored because I didn't have things to pick apart. So I from the jump was pushing myself. To me, if I can easily spit what I've written the first time that I try, then I haven't challenged myself enough in writing. So I remember,
Mm.
I think my opener for example, when I was 17, 16 maybe, the opener for my album at that time, which is not publicly available, um, I had been listening to a ton of Rob Sonic. And I open it with test strip positive, head trip operative, text split the rhythm with the dread kick, doctorate, cognitive, contemplating, recognitions, reconnaissance, prioritizing, present, and disregarding the obvious. My God is big, bigger than a King James lingo. Like I'm immediately like, but did it, and I remember like I skipped school and smoked some weed and wrote that verse, and it took me like 3 hours just to write the first 6 bars. Like I would
Yeah.
then take weeks to finish that verse, let alone the whole song. Um, just always, I can't believe I remember that. I haven't performed that song live and
That
whatever.
was sick
But,
though.
right? I mean, there's some clunkers, of course, there always are. But
Uh-huh.
I've just always pushed myself. And like, this is something that I go back and I listen to my old stuff and I was like, that was lazy, but it sounds good. Lean into it. That was lazy and it sounds like garbage. Lean into it. And you overcomplicated that, do it in a different way.
Uh-huh.
Um, we have, I like to record with Banana, right? Samurai Banana. I like it when he is my audio engineer. It hasn't worked out because I lived out in Portland for 3 years, but he likes to push me. When I record 50 takes. Sometimes I land it right away. But I have so
Mhm.
many different voices and so many different flows. A lot of rappers talk about that they have mad styles.
Mhm.
Um, a lot of them don't. They just like to say it. I genuinely have a Rolodex of styles, right? I I hear a beat. I like to attack different things on different songs, and I like to represent different parts of my ability to articulate and rhyme and storytell or brag or create a world or whatever it may be using different flows that like fit those things. So when I'm behind the mic, this is the mic that I use to record, so I can get loud and I can get quiet. I just take after take after take. Maybe I'll get a little messed up, drink a couple beers, record late at night, see what happens, listen to it in the morning, because that's where I really discover the fun ways to record myself. Also, playing live before you can. Any rapper listening to this, if you can play a song live a few times before you record it, you will record a better song.
Mm.
Especially if you switch up your flow as much as I do. I remember running into Sketch 185, great rapper, and Lamont Manuel and Tomorrow Kings. Colossal Structure. They're all sitting around talking about how they used to put too many words in a line. And it's one thing to go like, you know,
Mhm.
uh, put all the consonants in the front of your mouth. Keep it illegible, never be credible, battle, sentinel, straddle, incredible. We're like, that's all right here. But like to write something that's hard to say and then just cram it in there. When you do stuff like that, you're not going to sound like anybody else. There's
Mm.
nobody that's going to say that like you because you're problem solving in real time on the mic with something that shouldn't work. So to kind of force that in is a really fun challenge.
Mhm.
And I think that you heard Dreamery, and I abandoned almost all those principles on Dreamery. On Dreamery, I was just like, I just got to write some songs. I don't have time to think too hard about this. I'm exhausted. And
Uh-huh.
so like I feel like that is a turning point in my writing style in my career because at that point I've been working so hard to challenge myself because that's what I thought was fun. And then all of a sudden I have all of these it's like abilities like Mega Man X, you just keep on attaching new abilities. And then I go back and play the first level again with these new abilities and I can just kind of coast through it. You know, my
Mhm.
friend actually recently told me I should write an album in 48 hours and see how that goes. This is a question Woods asked me the last time I was kicking it with him. Are there
Uh-huh.
any conspiracy theories? What's the wildest conspiracy theory you believe?
I do believe.
Yes.
Oh man, I don't even know. Like I don't go down like I don't have any
None?
like crazy I maybe like nothing specific, I don't think. I mean
Uh-huh.
I believe there are like people in power who are like very corrupt, but nothing like
Yeah.
super
Goes without
specific.
saying.
Yeah. What about you?
Um, I've learned recently that in the past few years that all conspiracy theories end in anti-Semitism.
Oh yeah.
So
That's
like they're not fun anymore, you know?
yeah.
Like they were fun when I was younger, but I there's some iffy stuff going on with UFOs.
Mm.
And I don't know. Again, I don't dive into those spaces because they're full of a bunch of jerks, but like it's pretty wild how much information slash not information just keeps on getting leaked about
Yeah.
UFOs or whatever they're called nowadays. Um,
So like would you say it's misinformation or disinformation or
I think that it is the same as everything else, and there is simply too much information,
okay,
right?
yeah.
There's misinformation, there's disinformation, there's information, there's Rocky Foundation information, there's solid information, and I just
Yeah.
don't have the time, temperament, or reason or need to investigate. But
Hmm.
you know, when a new thing comes out about UFOs, I usually read the first paragraph.
Okay. That's
Again, I'm being
funny.
super non-committal here on purpose, but
Yeah, no, I don't the UFO thing in particular, it's kind of like the Gil Scott Heron Whitey on the moon thing for me. It's like, okay, aliens exist. Um, I still have to go to class now,
yeah,
you know.
yeah.
It
So
doesn't.
I think that I'm really into sci-fi, as anybody who listens to my music can tell.
Hmm.
I have through lines in my music about, at this point, trying to leave the planet. I think it's more inspiring creatively, like on emblems, right? So
Hmm.
we go back to Tap on the Glass, and it ends with me having the desire to leave the planet, right?
Hmm.
Um, and then on emblems, I pick it up on the first song. Y'all gonna miss my obstinate ass once I'm finished building this rocket ship. I'm out. And then I bring it up a couple more times on the album about trying to build a rocket ship to leave the planet. I just feel like because of that, it's like always piques my interest.
Hmm, I see. Yeah, that makes sense. Um, wow, I didn't when you started talking about when you brought it back to emblems, I was like, wow, I didn't even know we were still talking about aliens. That's funny though. Uh,
A little bit of aliens.
so to go back to the Hofstra thing,
Yeah.
were you a music business major there?
No, I was a linguistics major. I have a master's degree in linguistics, and I
Oh,
had
that
a
makes a lot of sense
yeah, I had
actually.
a specialization in forensic linguistics, which is you use the study of language to examine language evidence. Um, my mentor and his mentor worked very closely with the Innocence Project to get a lot of confessions thrown out. We were often on the defense. I did not go down that route. I could not stomach some of the court cases that I was assigned to as an intern.
Hmm.
And just got a really good look into the criminal justice system in this country and was like, I cannot participate with my current moral code, and I don't want to have that beaten out of me.
Yeah,
Um, and I went to school to go to New York. I didn't go to school for linguistics because I thought that was going to be my career, but that's what I studied.
I see. Well, you rap like someone who studied linguistics, and
Yes.
I mean
So
that as a compliment.
thank you. Yeah,
Um,
I try not to get too heady with it. It's just I have different ways to have fun than people who haven't unlocked all these like crazy theories about language.
mhm, yeah. Um, so I remember at the show we were at, um, what month was that? Like March or April?
April, yeah, April.
April. Um, we were talking a little bit about sort of the last few albums, and one you left out at the time was Steinway, I think it's called.
Yeah.
Um, so I just wanna ask about a particular feature on that project. Uh,
Ooh.
Jules Baxter.
Jules Baxter. Yes.
So
Okay.
Jules Baxter had one of my favorite features, I'd say, of like since since in the past 4 years, I'd say on a million bucks.
I
His
found a trust of $1,000 and maybe it was
yes
80 and I rounded up.
his
Woo!
his what can you say? What can you tell me about Jules Baxter? Because I had never heard of this person. I don't think I've heard anything from him since that. Uh, and I was just like so blown away. Is where can I find more from Jules Baxter?
So at the time that Steinway came out, Jules didn't have anything on DSPs. He does now. He put out an album
Okay.
last year that you can find online, produced entirely by Visano. I mixed the record
Mm,
and added some production elements to it as I mixed it.
hmm.
Um, Jules Baxter, I'll try to keep it brief, came to visit me at Hofstra, came to visit a roommate of mine at Hofstra, and we immediately hit it off. I remember we just put on beats for 5 hours and just freestyled back and forth for hours, just the two of us with a couple 40s and some weed. He visited a couple more times. I gave him an early demo of me and Banana's work. I gave him a ton of banana beats. The three of us had so much fun.
Hmm.
That roommate moved out. I didn't hear from Jules forever. 3, 4 years later, I get a message from Sloppy Seconds Presents that says, "Hey, do you want to come play a show in Connecticut?" I'm like, "What? You want me to come play a show outside of New York?" Of course. So I listened to the other guys on the bill. One of them is Old Self. And he says on his album, "You want a demo here Or you want an ad lib here? Put on the demo version. What's up? I see you, Headtrip. So on my demo that I'd given Jules Baxter years and years before, I said I had an ad lib on the album on the demo version, and then on the main version of the album, I say, "You want an ad lib here? Put on a demo, motherfucker." So that's a direct callback to me, and I was like, "How does this guy even have? Like, how does he know who I am?" At that point, we were putting out our music on burnt CDs that we would sell at the punk and the hip hop shows that we played, and on zip files that we would like share via media share or rapid share, right? Like this is how we were putting out our music. So I get up to Connecticut. Everybody, it's like a VFW birthday party. Everybody in this room knows our lyrics. They're like singing along. It was crazy. It was something I'd never experienced before.
Wow.
Um, and I mean, I say it at this point in my career too. I don't have fans, I have community. Anybody that supports me at this point in my career, like you are part of the machine that keeps this going, right?
Hmm.
I'm not looking at 300,000 Twitter followers that all eat up my music the second it drops, right?
Hmm.
I'm not looking at making a living off of my music. Like I'm not filling rooms in different cities all across the country. I got my hot spots. I got people that really like my music, and those people are my community. Sure, some of them consider themselves fans, but to me, those are just my people, right?
Hmm.
At this point, I'm like, okay, these are my people, and I'm like, old self, we got to work together. Now, he's like, do you know Baxter, right? Now, at that point, I did not know Jules Baxter. I knew a kid
Hmm.
named Johnny, and so I was like, I had just had this other guy named Baxter Wordsworth at my open mic night the week before in Queens. I was like, yeah, I know Baxter. Months go by, and he's like texting me pictures and talking to me about Baxter, and I finally realized that Baxter is Johnny. I met him years before, and he went back to Connecticut and passed out our music to all these dudes in the New Haven, Milford area, and they'd been listening to it for years. So by the time I got there, they were fans, right? And to this
Damn.
day, New Haven is one of my favorite places to go. I play there at least 2 times a year. I love it. I collaborate with a ton of people from that city and that area. Old Self is one of my best friends. He's one of my only super active Karma kids. His new album is incredible. Drop in the Bucket is still a drop. So over the years, I badgered Jules Baxter, one of my favorite rappers, to come to Queens and record.
Hmm.
Finally got him there. And while he was there, he recorded a whole album that he had written. And then I got $1 million out of him. And I got his two features. I got Shackle Sandals out of him. And I got Sleep Rap on Comedy of the Filth Beast. And his verse on Beaters, where he talks about his car. So I got
Hmm.
all four of those for me. And two of them landed on Comedy of the Filth Beast. And then as I was piecing together Steinway, which is just a bunch of songs that didn't make it on albums for one reason or another, when Karma Kids Generation 2 was super active,
Hmm.
I sat down during quarantine and just like finished all those songs into an album. So he ended up on that album twice.
I
And
see.
that $1 million verse,
Yeah.
woo! There you go. How long did that one take me? I was pretty concise.
No, that was perfect. Thank you. That
Yeah.
definitely clears it up. So I'll check out that album that you mentioned that he put out. That sounds really cool.
Yeah, his newest album is Backs Against the Wall. It's dope.
Vaccines. Okay.
He's just bar for bar a dope spitter. He doesn't waste his time with hooks. He doesn't waste his time with flair. He just spits.
Uh-huh. Dope, dope, dope. So Karma Kids has, since I've discovered them, uh pretty much become one of the most exciting labels. Anytime you guys drop something, even if it's someone, or maybe even especially if it's someone I've never heard of,
Hmm.
I I'm scrambling to check it out, see what it's like. Um, Actually, I feel like maybe every time you announce a project, it's from someone I haven't heard of, which is maybe that's why I like you guys so much.
Yep.
Um,
We keep it
so
fresh.
yeah, uh, Miles Cook,
Hmm.
uh, he just popped up on an album I reviewed, which also came out this past Friday. Sasko's
Yeah.
hottest year on record.
Yep.
Yeah,
Which is such a great title because then you can say it's the hottest record of the year.
yeah, yeah. I didn't even catch that until I saw someone tweet about that. But yeah, that's true. Uh,
Yep.
Also another great record. Miles Cook has one of the best features on there.
Hmm.
So I wanted to make sure I shouted that out.
Yeah.
Um,
Sketches on that record too.
oh yeah, Sketch 185,
That's my
another,
dude.
and shout out to Sketch 185, bruh, on that album, but this on Emblems, bruh. Sketch 185, so it's either that one, that song, or the one that follows it with Blood Money Perez, for
Hmm.
my favorite track, I think. I haven't
Oh,
decided a
really?
favorite. Yeah, I haven't
Cool.
decided a favorite track yet. Um,
Cool.
I'm still working on the review.
Hmm.
Um,
Take your time.
I had,
It'll be
yeah,
around.
yeah. So, um,
Sketches verse on that came together in a really interesting way.
uh-huh.
So Blood Money has a song called I woke up and didn't die, right?
Hmm.
I woke up and didn't die. And Time is a Motherfucker, right? The
Hmm.
Blood Money Perez album.
Yeah.
I think at that time it was Dr. Blood Money. I don't know. So Sketch wrote that verse for a different song entirely, and it was directed toward Blood Money, right?
Hmm.
Like shit's hard, but we keep waking up and not dying. Let's keep it moving, right? It's a
Hmm.
very inspiring verse. And he spit it to me a few years ago. And then when I realized that this project with Blood Money wasn't going to be an EP, it was going to be a full length, I was like, Blood Money, send me a new pack. And I just sent it directly to Sketch. And I was like, can you put that verse on any of these beats? And so Sketch picked that beat and recorded his verse and sent it back to me. Sketch is a
Hmm.
really hard MC to follow on a song,
Yeah.
um, because he just builds up so much momentum. He's so dynamic. He's an incredible rapper. I mean, the dude is just, I mean, I can't say enough good things about his abilities. And
Hmm.
this verse was a little different in that he follows the same rhyme scheme and he just kind of like steady as it goes it through the
Yeah.
whole verse, which like gave me an exciting opportunity to come after him. And so I take the theme, but I tell a story of a waiter in a diner who sees themselves as an author and will never publish anything, but still holds in their heart that they are an artist. And
Hmm.
I got that concept entirely from an issue of Neil Gaiman's Sandman.
Hmm.
Now, in the rest of the comic, that character is a very small part, and the bad guy shows up and basically mind controls everybody into fucking and killing and eating each other. Um, but I just took the snippet of this person who's like drawers full of notes, and they're not even a good author, right? The only part in the verse where I start talking about what they're it's a Byzantine web of simple and tired tropes. I like immediately make fun of the corniness of that person got married to that person and their kids, blah 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 blah. Um, so and then I quote Jean-Luc Picard at the very end of the song. But it was a challenge, you know, to follow Sketch on that song. And then I got a synth player to come in and like fill in the rest of the beat and stuff. But I still, on my birthday, I just wanted to quote Sketch.
Hmm.
Time, age is a treasure. The dim have it misidentified because they didn't know a thousand folds could give a blade a different shine.
Mm.
Like, that's just a couplet. And every time I look in the mirror and I think, we're getting old, Trip, I think age is a treasure. like
Mm,
Dim Habit Misidentified.
yeah.
Uh, very, very honored that Sketch continues to make this music with me. I mean, we're friends, you know, it's a stretch, but you know,
Yeah.
I'm still very honored that he continues to create with me, and that he had me on. He left nothing for the swim back. That's my first
Yeah.
backwoods release and my first time on vinyl.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
Hmm.
That was awesome too. Shout out to Jeff Markey for producing it.
Jeff
Jeff
Markey.
Markey was involved in this album too, to an extent,
Hmm.
right?
So Jeff, yeah, so Jeff and I have a bunch of music together that never came out for one
Mm,
reason or another, and I ended up using like New Age Crusaders. I wrote
yeah,
entirely
yeah.
to a Jeff Markey beat.
Okay.
And so I used the drums, some of the drums from the original beat that I wrote that song to on New Age Crusaders. But you have, see this is a secret too. You have a version of the credits
Hmm.
that credits him for that, and we ended up actually taking that out of the final credits.
Oh,
So you're privy to that information, and I guess whoever listens to this is.
I
Jeff and I have
see. Yeah.
collaborated for years. I mixed a lot of his records, and again, we have like a ton of music that will just never see the light of day for one reason or the other. I mean, a couple of those tracks might come out,
Hmm.
but like you know, that dude's been in this music scene that I've been in for longer than I have, you know, working with Reservoir Sound.
Okay, cool, cool. Yeah. Um, so we've used this word generations when talking about the Karma Kids a few times. Which generation are we currently in?
So I would say that me and Bug and Resin and Samurai Banana made up the first generation.
Hmm.
Second generation is the generation most people know about, right? Googie, Gruff Lion, Dunce Cap, Banana, MC11. And I think that I can safely say we're in the third generation of Karma Kids.
Okay.
I shut it down when I moved to Block Island and wrote
Hmm.
Dreamery. I paid everybody out. I said, been a great ride. Everybody was transitioning out anyway. You know, like I think Dunce Cap had already like started pitching heavy to Backwoods. Banana went back to college. Gruff Lion moved to Vermont and stuff. Like we were kind of disbanding anyway. So I paid everybody out and I was like, love you guys. Let's stay in touch. And I was just planning on releasing my own music and having a different label name and all this. And then I got the call from Teddy Faley during quarantine.
Mm.
And he was like, let's put my album out. And that is what birthed the next generation. So I'd say we're on three right now. And right now, you know, my most active artists are Teddy and Old Self. We put
Yeah.
out a great album by Shape this year that has so many ridiculous features on it. That Hester Valentine album that we put out
Hmm.
recently, you know, I'm hoping that we'll eventually get a follow up working with him.
Hmm.
And we got some surprises as well.
Hell yeah. Um, Last thing, I just wanted to say, there's one song or a single, um, called "So in My Head," and I love that song, and I also love the artwork for that
Yeah.
song. Who did the artwork for "So in My Head"?
So I love that song as well. It was my first attempt at singing on a song. I kind of wish I would have put it on Steinway
Okay.
because I feel like it got looked over a little bit because it's
Hmm.
just a single, and most of the people that consume my music I've learned want full rap albums from me.
Hmm.
Um, which is cool. I mean, it still exists out there. Um, so the lettering on Comedy of the Filth Beast, on Dreamery, on Pressure of the Tempest, this like handwriting that's kind of calligraphy-ish. That is all done by a close friend of mine who I just spent all weekend with, Colin Williams. He's an author and an artist and a professor and a journalist.
Hmm.
Um, his little brother, I guess little, I mean, how old are we now? His brother Aiden is also an artist. And so I hit up Colin for that cover and he's like, I can't do it. Hit up Aiden. So I hit up Aiden and he brought that back to me. We've
Wow.
been trying to collab for a while. We have a few ideas in the can, and he lives in the DC area where I live now. So we've been getting a drink once a week and trying to figure out how we can collab, whether it be me setting up his basement studio so he can record his guitar songs, or if we do some more artwork together, he might be making a logo for an upcoming project for me. But
Uh-huh.
he hit me back with like the sketch of that. And so anybody who's listening to this that doesn't know, it's called SO, so in my head, right? And it is like me butt ass naked getting my head sewn, getting my third eye stitched back together by a bunch of monks who are also me. It is crazy. And then I animated it. Did you see I posted on Instagram the animated
I think
version?
yeah,
Doop,
where it was like
doop.
kind of like,
Yeah, the
yeah.
flowers go back and
Or
forth and the guy
was it
that's
like,
sewing.
okay,
Doop,
yeah, yeah.
doop. The
I
guy like sews my head. Yeah, dude, that's
it's so
crazy. So
cool.
it's funny like listening to that song, that cover art doesn't seem to fit because it's like a nice like melancholy
Uh-huh.
like overcast beach day in the fall kind of song where you're just thinking about stuff. But the lore behind it is that my most popular closer for most of my career is the song I wrote called Trepination, which is all about trepanation. I watched a documentary about how drilling a hole in your head gets you high permanently. And so I have a song about drilling a hole in your head, and it's a step by step explanation. It's a crazy encore that I play in certain spaces. I'm not playing it at a Beats batch, like they're not ready
Yeah.
for that. But like I rip my shirt off, Banana raps with me. It's a crazy song. And so that song is about me stitching back up the hole that I drilled into my head in the lore of Headtrip. And so that's why that cover art ended up being so graphic and so intense for such like a
Uh-huh.
sweet, melancholy song. Aiden Williams, Aiden Bailey Williams, they got the same middle name, these guys. He's a really good musician too. Maybe I'll get, maybe I'll record an EP for him now that I live close to him.
You kind of mentioned him earlier, so I just want to bring up Teddy Faley. Shout out to Teddy Faley.
Yeah.
Uh, the album Teddy Brown Brown.
Hmm.
Uh, I've basically it's become one of those albums that's like it's becoming a decade defining album for me
Dude, for
for
real.
the 2020s. So if you're watching this and you still haven't heard that, uh definitely that how would you say that album is aging, Teddy Brown Brown, and just like how what was the importance of that album for the Karma Kids?
I mean, look, when I put out Teddy Brown Brown, I had no bank. Like the Karma Kids, again, I paid everybody out. I had like a
Hmm.
few $100s to work with. But I had a lot of time. And so we put together a really big promo release with a lot of assets that I made, and did all the things that I do when I'm not being Head Trip and I'm
Hmm.
being the head of Karma Kids. And he worked with me every step of the way and really trusted me in a way that I hadn't, worked with an artist in a long time.
Hmm.
And the response was great. I mean,
Yeah.
I I haven't put out something that got as good a response as Teddy Brown Brown since.
Hmm.
And when I bring up Teddy to people, which I do frequently because that's my dude, they just go, that fucking cigarette song.
Yeah.
People are still listening to it. And, we never did physicals for that album. And mm, I think that's the kind of album that we could put out uh, a third year anniversary
Yeah.
physical.
Yeah, it
You
doesn't even
know,
have to be, it
like
doesn't even have to be like 10 or 5 years. It's one of
nah,
those albums that like it had that much of an impact on people, I feel like, whereas like,
yeah,
damn, it's been 3 years already. Like
right.
that's what people are gonna
I
say.
know. And we're working. Like we're putting there, you'll get more Teddy music in 2025 for sure, hands
Hell
down.
yeah.
He also lives in the DC area. He lives in Baltimore.
Hmm.
And while he's moving to LA soon, we had enough overlap that we were able to record a bunch of music and make a bunch of plans. And now that the label isn't a fledgling anymore, we have support systems and we have a little more cash and we have a lot more ambition,
Hmm.
and we're working our asses off. Teddy's on one of my next records as well. I probably shouldn't talk too much about it, but
Hmm.
you'll find it interesting. I'll email you about it. Something about
Hell
our
yeah.
middle name in the title of that album you'll find interesting.
Okay.
Um, and I think that as people get older and further from quarantine and look more and more at how that changed them, that they will continue to appreciate Teddy Brown Brown more. I
Yeah.
think it's an album that keeps giving. I think that Teddy's an interesting artist because he doesn't necessarily steep all of his language in metaphor anymore like he used to. And
Hmm.
so for like an Aesop Rock LP kind of fan, that might make them think that there isn't as much replay value in his new music as there was in his old music. But I think that it's the opposite. Just like how Aesop's album, where he was just super straightforward and talked about going to therapy and, talked about his cat.
Hmm.
I'm blanking on the name right
The
now.
Impossible
The
Kid.
Impossible Kid.
Yeah.
Just like how that has an incredible amount of replay value. I think that like you're lured in by Teddy's charm and abilities as an MC, and you get the surface level of what he's talking about. But the more you listen to it, everything's on another level. That guy is a punchline king, and you just get to know him a little bit more every time you listen to the record. So I think other people feel the way I do. If anybody's listening to this and wants to comment on whether they are interested in a Teddy Brown Brown physical in the next year or two, let me know because I'm open to
I
it.
am.
Good, good. We'll start there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Teddy's my man. He just I'm not even gonna go into it. Teddy's my guy. He wasn't
Bet,
on this album, but he's on the next one.
bet. Yeah, well, okay, well, yeah, I know I keep saying, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. One
It's
last
all
thing.
good, dog. Yeah, hit
This
me.
is the last thing. I had never heard of Young Daddy at all. I
Young
don't think
Daddy.
prior to
Yeah,
hearing this
so
album.
Young Daddy is was part of a group called Your Mystery Guest with Bars. We performed with them a lot pre-pandemic in Brooklyn, Jersey, dope MCs, both of them. And then they amicably split, and Young Daddy started doing her own thing. She's a DJ as well. She went to Shape and was like, Shape, you need to make an album. Let's go. And so Young Daddy is the reason that Midnight Geometry by Shape exists.
Mhm.
She's all over that record. So you have heard her, but in the context of like a this like behemoth of an album that we put out for Shape earlier this year.
Mhm.
I love her voice, and when I heard this beat that Blood Money made, I texted her. I was like, "Yo, you want to hop on this track?" And she was like, "Say less." And I was like, "I don't know what that means." I was, I mean, I'd just been living in my mom's basement and then moved out west, but I was like, all right, but I know what that means now. So she laid the foundation for that song, Elementary Space Madness, which was our first single off of
Mhm.
Emblems. And just like came in so smooth, just rapping about elevating. And I then took what she did. I wrote my verse kind of mirroring hers, right?
Mhm.
Like she says that we keep it elementary. I'm like Daddy says, we keeping it Watson, because Watson's always like elementary or Sherlock, elementary, my dear Watson, right?
Mhm.
I take it from I take it from and I then say the same kind of thing in my verse. Anyway, so I played off of her verse a bunch, and then I got Googie on that hook, and then I got a bassist. So I tour with a funk band, Basil and the Supernaturals, and I got the bassist, the drummer, and the keyboardist to lay music over that beat. Blood
Mhm.
Money didn't have the stems for any of these beats. So I took on the responsibility on most of these tracks of like building them up. And in that moment, I was just like, we got to get more synth on this beat. And the bassist laid the line. Anyway, shout out Young Daddy for setting that one off and making me determined to make it into a much larger song than it was initially. She's got a
Mhm.
great voice, a great attitude, wonderful energy. Uh, DJ no requests, and she sells some banging hot sauce as well.
Oh,
Jersey.
nice.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. Um,
Yep.
okay, well, I have I've asked enough questions, I think. Um,
Bet.
thank you so much for speaking to me. I look forward to everything the Karma Kids do. Um, it's been fun watching the Karma Kids. Uh, yeah, it's just it's a really exciting label to watch just because like
Thanks, man.
yeah, just I guess it's just simply because everything is really good that you guys put out. So just keep
Thank
it
you.
up.
We take a lot of pride in the hard work we put into every project, and that is from concept to rollout.
Hmm.
Um, the only reason that you don't get more music from my camp is because we work really hard to make sure that our releases are put out in the world properly.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
in fact, I am launching a Patreon shortly that is going to give some people some behind the scenes looks so that you don't have to wait for an album like Steinway to hear some of the drafts that me and the team are working on.
Mm,
So keep an eye out for that. That'll be launching
awesome.
this year. And, I walk the line. I, I want to walk the line more between easy, easy stuff to put out. Here you go. Here's a demo. And also keep up the high quality that people have come to love from the label. And thank you to you. I mean, it's journalists like you that keep telling people about what we do,
Hmm.
Uh, so many of you guys out there, Call Out Culture, Rap Music Plug Podcast, Dad Bod Rap Pod, like the Free Music Empire, like you guys are the you guys are the conduit, that helps all of this sea of incredible music. Like there's so much good music right now. I don't know how any of y'all keep up with it, but I really appreciate all the hard work that you guys put in. Shout out Sharon Shabazz as well.
Thank
Um,
you. Yeah. Shout out to all of those guys. I look up to those guys myself, so I am 100% in agreement with you. Um, and with that,
Hell yeah.
I think that's everything I have to say. So
Yeah.
I will end the recording here. For everyone watching,
Headtrip.
legalize it, don't demonize it. Stay keeping, my brothers and sisters. And as always, peace out.
It's totally surreal.